progress towards solving some of the world's greatest challenges, whether it's climate change, food insecurity, education, or healthcare access, and so much more. It has so much exciting potential. But at the same time, today we're facing an incredible crisis in terms of diversity in AI. Only 14%, 14%, of all technologists around the world in AI are women. And so how can we possibly have a technology that benefits everyone if it's only being built by a few? So today we're going to hear from these amazing leaders in AI who are at different parts of their journeys in the field about not only their visions for the future of AI, but how we can make sure that this technology actually reaches its potential to benefit everyone. So we're going to start with a question for all of you, which is, what first originally sparked your interest in the AI field? Tell us about your first few steps getting into it. We'll start with Kelly and we'll go this way.
So you have to share, sorry. So my field of study was actually semiconductors, but when I had just gotten my PhD, I was at a research lab, and there was this extraordinary AI lab with Lisp machines and a lot of rule-based AI with big dreams. And probably many of you know it then descended into what they often call the AI winter. But I've always been intrigued, and what I really like is that the chips that I was such an important part of my life has enabled what's possible in AI today.
So it actually started with my parents. They asked, "Oh, you went to school for a long time, you kept on going to school. Hopefully you're doing something with that education," and asked what did I do. And then for the longest time thought I was going to be the first Korean astronaut in space. They were very surprised when my mechanical engineering and the CS had nothing to do with space travel. I'm sure there are engineers here. But that actually got me to think about how can I make sure the technology I work with impacts everybody's life, not those who are tech savvy. My parents love technology, but were not tech savvy. And so that's how I got into AI, starting at Apple, working on biometric sensors for the thumbprint, the first one that came out on that was leveraging AI and other aspects of computer vision in image signal processing.
So I started coding, actually making web pages about my golden doodle. And then after that, I kind of got into back end and cybersecurity and other aspects of computer science. But the first time I had ever been exposed to AI specifically was through AI for All. And at Stanford AI for All, this was the first time that I had ever seen AI being applied to social problems.
How old were you?
And I had my 13th birthday at Stanford AI for All. And after that, I started getting really interested in interdisciplinary research and applying AI to solve social problems. And that's when I started doing lab research at MIT, applying AI to law. Yeah.
So I got into AI purely because of intellectual curiosity. At that time it was AI winter, like Kelly said. I finished physics degree, undergraduate degree, and was involved in neuroscience, and that combination of intellectual curiosity led me to think about intelligence and making intelligent machines. And that's when I started my PhD in 2000 in artificial intelligence, and it wasn't even called AI at that time, so in computer vision.
Thank you all so much. So Fei Fei, you recently started the Human-Centered AI Initiative and have an amazing career in AI since you graduated from that program. I'm really curious though, looking ahead, what are you most excited about now in the future of AI, especially around the social impact that you think it can have? And what are some examples for those of us that might not be as familiar? Where do you think it can make the most positive impact?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Tess. I think I would be most excited if I see a diverse group of thinkers and leaders and influencers, meaning you, go out there and develop and apply AI to AI for good applications. So as a technologist, I firmly believe this is such a powerful technology that can make a difference, but every technology is a double-edged sword. they're not born good or bad. They're being applied by humans, and they can harm humans, our environment, but as well as helping us. So I would be very excited to see a good impact deployed through AI technology or products on healthcare, sustainability, agriculture, education, and many of these applications.
Thank you so much. Becca, you've done some really interesting research already, and you're just a freshman in college, but I'm curious, where do you see the field going? What are you excited about for the future of AI?
For the future of AI, I'm really interested in seeing kind of venturing away from techno-solutionism, which I think we see a lot when AI is being applied, and kind of moving towards, of course, solutions with social applications, but also solutions that integrate the voices of marginalized communities specifically. I think in AI we see a lot of initiatives that are for marginalized communities and for underrepresented populations and for social good. We're not necessarily seeing developers that reflect that and developer opinions that reflect those values. So that's what I'm really interested in seeing for the future.
Wonderful, thank you. And Sophia, what about at Microsoft? What are you working on right now, and what are you excited about for the roadmap in the future?
One of the things I've been very excited about at Microsoft is I applied AI to Excel. Love Excel, it's one of my favorite software since the beginning, and don't judge. And so what I did is, ingesting all the information about stock information, I can determine what are the major attributes and have it self-populate so that you don't have to fill out all the stuff. All I need to know is I'm interested in Microsoft stock, and then have all the other things I care about, whether it be P&E and so forth, and that was something that was able to be applied not just for those who are working in Wall Street, but that is a feature that's available to anybody that's interested. So one of the things I concentrate on, the AI products that I work on, is how can I make sure everybody, like my parents and others who love technology, may not be tech savvy, how can they interact so you can be a citizen data scientist and engage? Because you know what? I'm not going to know your needs. You know your needs better than I. Another thing I want to make sure that everybody here goes towards AI is that our presence and our perspective is very important. When I was at Google and I worked on Next products, it was basically the algorithm of what is considered a comfortable temperature was based on a map. The average male temperature versus women is a delta of 5 degrees. 5 degrees. So you know how we're all freezing here? It's because it was optimized for a man. Right? And the reason is that when it came out of the box, the setting of what is default temperature was optimized for a man. So that is when that all the women had to go and change it. And you know what? It's an AI-empowered device. It's supposed to be smart. Why do you keep on changing it? So because I was there, I was able to say, hey, this is the average temperature. The default starts at 2.5. Everybody should have an equal chance to go teach that AI what is appropriate.
Telly, you've had such varied work, both as a leader, increasing representation in tech and at Anita, but also as a technologist. So I'm curious, for you, looking ahead, what are you most excited about?
Well, I mean, AI is going to impact our future. I mean, it's so exciting, some of the things that you see, certainly self-driving cars, facial recognition. I mean, it's going to be ubiquitous in our life. But I really want to make sure that the people that are creating this technology, I mean, this is going to change our lives. This is going to change your children's life. This is going to change your parents' life, your friends. And if women are at the table creating that technology, it is going to be a problem. So to me, that's what I'm most excited, is that we see a diverse set of people creating that technology.
Thank you so much. Great segue. So it's clear what an exciting technology this is, and that it's really going to revolutionize our lives in so many ways, and there's a lot of positive potential. But realistically, what we're looking at today, as we talked about, is a crisis where there's not enough women in the field. And at AI for All, as you've heard a little bit about, we're trying to change that by bringing people and communities that would otherwise be left out into the field through education and mentorship initiatives. But there's so much more work to be done. So I want to hear a little bit about what led us here. Why are we facing this problem today? And so Telly, I want to start with you actually. There's been a lot of talk about diversity in tech initiatives and how much money and investment has been put in over the last few years. And you've done amazing work leading this, but I'm curious if you could speak to why do you think it's been such a challenge to move the needle?
Yes, I mean, there is a lot of attention on it, which is great. And one of the great gifts of my life is to meet all the young women at Grace Hopper over the years and come up and say, wow, this really changed my life. But here's what I know, is that whereas a lot of places, companies, universities give a lot of lip service to diversity, they don't take the hard steps to make a difference. Some do. Some do. And as you think about what you want to do, and particularly where you want to work, you've got to realize that they are not created equal. So you want to ask a lot of questions about their programs, how they measure changes. You know, how many women do they have in the C-suite? How many women do they have on the board? Understand what that company does besides just giving lip service.
Fei Fei, let me ask you this. So you have been doing a lot of advocacy in this for AI specifically, and this is part of the reason why you co-founded AI for All. I'm curious, why does diversity matter so much for AI in particular?
Yeah, good question. So, first of all, I think inclusion and having diverse people matters so much in all areas of human lives and human work. So it's not just AI, but being in the field of AI, you know, most of my career was heads down in the lab, and it's not a field that the public has taken notice. But around 2012, when ImageNet data, deep learning algorithm, GPU chips all converged, in the field of AI, we start to see this huge surge of this incredible technological force coming up and likely to make a big difference. And that's slightly earlier than the public has taken awareness of this. And I start to feel very uneasy between 2012 and 2014 for the following two reasons. The first reason is we're starting to hear this just dystopia talk about technology creating the Terminators coming next door and you know, enslaving humanity. And you name your favorite white dude tech CEOs, they've been on the news saying that. That's one thing I hear, and I do worry where this technology is going. But what made me more uneasy was the daily life I was living in. The field of AI as a technical field was just lacking diversity. For the longest time, I was the only woman faculty in the entire Stanford AI lab. And I go to, you know, NeuroRips, I go to CVPR, there is less than 10% women. And for me, that's the core of this crisis, is that if we're concerned about where this technology is going, we're concerned about the value that this technology will reflect, we really should be concerned about the creators, the people who are at the steering wheel of this technology. And so one very important person entered this picture, and her name is Olga Russakovsky. She was my PhD student in the year of 2014, and she was almost graduating, and quite independently, she was also realizing this issue, and she came to me and said, I really want to do something to change this. What about this idea of bringing this technology to women and underrepresented minority in the earlier age of their life, before it's too late for them to join this field. And that's when 2014, Olga and I started the first chapter of Stanford AI for All that Becca joined us in the summer of 2015. I was year 1. So that's where, my journey came in terms of AI for All and wanting to make that change.
Sophia, I'm wondering, from larger tech companies that I know have focused a lot more on this issue recently, can you share any challenges from inside when you're really trying to make a difference in this area? What are some of the barriers to movement?
As Telly stated, you first have to measure it to understand where you stand, and then have behaviors or culture instilled that moves the needle along the way, right? And start testing out different concepts or initiatives to see, is it moving it in the direction that's desired? And so that was number 1, measuring it, making sure you're accountable by stating that information to the public, as well as, so what Microsoft has done in many different ways is they've been very upfront about policies around AI being inclusive and being fair, and making sure that there's collaboration across different diverse parties, and they're being included in the discussions. And so they wrote a book about it. They have policy in place associated with it. Another thing is they're making a very concentrated effort in hiring as well as onboarding and retaining. This is the full life cycle. It doesn't end with just recruitment, but it's during the life cycle of your career that matters. I have seen, I'm a general manager at AI, one of the largest scopes of women there, right? Every year the numbers have increased. For a general manager and CBP before, as an example, 5 years ago was less than 20. Now it's in the hundreds, right? And role modeling is very key to that, and having success stories about how diversity inclusion has made the products better. I gave the example of Excel. Who are the different individuals who are using that, and how do they look at things? For Bing search, how are the results? Are we having bias towards one or the other? Only showcasing CEOs that are white male when it's obviously there are women and others, other categories in there. And then about the skin color, being mindful of the fact, and this is based on the participants out there that stated that. I'm very fortunate. I married my husband. He is Hispanic, and I have a mixed culture, and so understanding that is something I bring to the table as well.
Thank you so much. And Becca, you've created several inclusive hackathons and also done advocacy work in your community. So I'm curious, what approach did you take and what drove you to do that kind of work in your community?
So I think especially at a high school level, what we're seeing in terms of collaborative coding events is these hackathons that truly only focus on creating a solution, not necessarily a solution, but one product or one app or whatever, and then getting a prize and then leaving. And one thing I really wanted to implement when I started creating my own coding events was kind of this more long-term mentorship experience, and kind of experiences that were crafted and tailored for people of color and for women. So I directed a hackathon called Byte Hacks. I helped direct a hackathon called Byte Hacks, and it's the largest all-female hackathon in New York. And we didn't just have big tech sponsors. We had makeup companies. We had women could take headshots for their LinkedIn profiles. We're trying to craft an experience that genuinely is for women, not just saying, here's a space where you can code. Your identity doesn't detract from that. So really supporting women in that way. And then also, I helped direct a hackathon called MA Hacks, which is in the Boston area. And at that hackathon, the prizes are long-term mentorship. We also have typical tech hackathon prizes, but for example, if you win on our medical track, we partner with Boston Children's to allow people to continue their product in the long term, which is kind of not necessarily what we're seeing out of a lot of tech spaces at the high school level, which is something that I really wanted to implement when I was in high school. Yeah.
Yeah, let's dig in a little bit more to solutions. We're aware of the problem and how deep it goes and how multifaceted it is. Fei Fei, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what solutions you see, especially in the academic research space, if you're seeing anything emerge there, especially as some of these people in the audience might be considering careers in that field, in the research field. Increasing diversity.
Right. So I think Telly really hit the really important point. It's not just enough to pay the lip service. There's so much to be done, right? Like really, this whole issue started with, when one is born, there is already implicit bias, and then in the K-12 classrooms, that kind of cultural bias is baked in for people of color, for girls, and then entering college and universities, that gets exacerbated, and then by the time we're in workplace, in tech, we still see a very low number of women, very high number of attrition and all that. So in the education sector I live in right now, I think personally I'm focusing on really two groups. One is working with AI for All on this high school group, where students are really thinking about their college majors, thinking about the career path. I really want to catch these communities as early as possible and provide not only an exposure, but also, like Becca said, the long-term mentorship and support. And this is a lot of work that many of us at AI for All are doing. In higher ed, we really have to do a whole spectrum of things. The classroom, starting with TAs, instructors, faculty, the kind of projects we do. And we actually, Stanford has done a lot of work in increasing the women population in the undergraduate population. So I'm pretty sure we are above about 35% women in undergraduate major. It's not where we want it to be yet, but it's a big step forward. We are here at Grace Hopper as an effort to increase that representation. And I'm also very focused on mentoring women who are about to go to workplace and continuing their career, because I really worry about the attrition. We have a lot of talented young women joining, but by the time they hit grad school, hit postdoc, hit assistant professorship, the force in the culture and life start to drag them down. And I'm happy to report that AI Lab now has 5 women faculty, compared to a few years ago there was just me. So we have done a lot in that space, but it takes a lot of willpower from leadership to the grassroots to get this fixed.
Sophia, what about any success stories that you can share from your time at Microsoft, maybe just building on what you were sharing before? What can other companies learn from what's worked?
So there's multiple tiers, making sure there is a recruiting effort focused on the diversity that's at hand with metrics, always the metrics, so you can measure that behavior is happening along the line. Also on the onboarding and then community. So there's two ways, one structured organization and onboarding, and then there's also a community for different levels so they can engage and have like a safe space to discuss things. And then we have mentoring circles that we have for those communities of all different levels. And then also there are trainings associated with whether you want to get into AI space. Just so you guys know, the average compensation, if you work with AI as a data scientist, data engineer, or software engineering that's supporting with data science, is 20% above software engineers. The money's good. No, I'm just saying. So giving those facts and information as an encouragement, as well as there's a training path. It's like those who are a designer with no engineering background. These are some recommended courses you can take. Microsoft has invested significantly in courses and learning, and there's a platform associated with it. I think those are the investment you make on yourself and learning a new skill. That is worth it. That 20%, remember, year on year, compounding is pretty significant. So in a couple of years, you could be making double those who haven't. I'm hoping the money also sells it, right? But the opportunities that's available to you. And that gives you so much more growth, and that's a wave that's happening. It's a very, very large wave. And regardless of what your degree or background is, engineering or not, you can start engaging and start learning. And as you learn the language, you can immerse yourself further.
Thank you so much. Telly, what lessons learned? You've done so much work in advocacy for representation and seen so many things that have been challenges and worked in the computer science field generally. AI is maybe an emerging, not super new, but in some ways growing more quickly than it has, and there's still a lot of time to make positive impact here. So what can AI as a field learn from computer science?
Yes, there are some examples that work. In college, there is the great effort that Anita Borg is involved with Harvey-Led College, and universities have learned real lessons about how to diversify their student body, and it's things like the introduction class and the way that new students learn a topic, and I think that AI could learn there. And having a community, something that both Sophie and Fei Fei mentioned, being able to find like-minded people. But I do believe that many companies are going to create AI products, and you really have to approach developing the workforce for these AI products methodically and make sure that from the very beginning, you are ensuring that you have diverse people creating that technology, because it's always harder to change over time. And measure it, figure out if you're not getting them, figure out why, create programs that fix the problems that you see. But here's what I believe. I believe that changing it is actually pretty simple, but you have to have commitment, and you have to have commitment from the leadership.
Becca, I'm curious, getting into AI so early as you did, you went through the AI for All program, and then you also did an internship. Can you share what was effective about those environments? Like, what helped actually spark interest in AI? What were some of the elements that really helped you feel, this is the field for me?
I think, especially getting into AI at an early age, culture is obviously so important in terms of what makes you want to pursue a field. And I was really lucky in the sense that I went to AI for All, and I have a fantastic group of friends who are all doing really cool things in tech and other spaces that are mentors and friends and fantastic people. And I definitely think having that support is important. I also think at my internship, one of the first pieces I ever read for my MIT lab was Limio Nuha's Missing Data Sets. And it's kind of about how in data science, certain data isn't collected about marginalized communities, or certain statistics aren't really known because there's no incentive for big tech or for other companies to actually record that data. Which was really interesting because I also work on a female-led team, and having those spaces where I do feel like there are mentors and there are people who legitimately care about me is really important. And I think going into college, you do see that there are diversity initiatives, but I was in an honors intro CS class that had maybe one other Black woman in the class, and it's a class of 100 people. So in general spaces and at college, I do feel like there are people pursuing CS, but I definitely don't see those close-knit, really culturally sound and ethical communities that I saw at AI for All and in internships. So I think exposing to women and people of color to those experiences early is so important to how they understand themselves in the context of computer science and AI.
I want to say one thing, one of the most heartwarming scene I've ever seen in my professional life was, I think it's one of your camps, that's seeing teenage girls talking about AI algorithms while braiding each other's hair during break. That was the best thing ever. As a person in AI for 20 years, I've never seen that. So that power of community and friendship and fellowship will stay with you for a long time, and I hope that you all out there are able to find that community and support each other.
So one of the interesting things about AI is not only how fast it's growing and how much it pays, thank you for that stat, employer demand for AI roles has doubled over the past few years, and we're seeing that trend continue. One of the things that I think is so exciting and interesting about AI is how interdisciplinary it is. So there's new roles emerging like AI ethics, AI in policy, AI in healthcare, and really seeing how it can advance specific industries and their ability to solve problems that have been harder for humans to solve. So we're really just at the beginning of what that's going to look like. And this is a question for all of you. What are some of the jobs that are out there in AI? For those of you in the audience that might be like, I wonder about this field. Can you talk a little bit about what some examples of roles in the AI field are or emerging for anyone?
Quick question, who does not have an engineering background? Okay, somebody say, what is your field? Huh? Sales. Anybody else? Business. Design. Okay. So the reason is there's a lot of ways to get into AI, obviously, if you're technical. And it is getting on projects, originally, it could be a small 10% project that's working with data analytics and so forth. For design is how do you do data visualization? You have all this AI, those are machine responses and results. How do you showcase that so the masses can understand? For sales and marketing, how do I use AI in order to better predict and forecast things I can utilize? And what is the platform I need in order to go do that so that I am mindful of the in-situ situation that's happening, using signals maybe that's about the environment to understand these are some of the needs and wants and how others have recommended certain products, and maybe I use that as a way to upsell things. For business, business analytics has started. Getting that further for more wide-scale view that's happening across all your organizations. How do you leverage that and scale? Those are just some of the examples. To say that AI will not disrupt and remove jobs, that's a lie. It is expected by 2025, 73 million jobs will be dissolved. But at the same time, 135 million jobs that will be created. And what that means is it's not necessarily data scientists, it could be data engineer working with a lot of big data sets of information. It could be visualization, analytics, and so forth. So there are many different opportunities there for all the different parties to get involved. But the thing is you have to take the first step. So one thing I would ask everyone here is, if you want, I'm on LinkedIn. Next year, you tell me about a step where you took towards doing more things related to AI, ping me on LinkedIn. I'll respond. I won't have a 30-minute chat, but I'll respond and maybe give guidance and so forth. And I can promise you that, because if it means that every one of you take one step closer, you're more likely to succeed, get paid, and have more opportunities open to you. So that's a challenge.
Wow, great challenge. Take it. So I want to add, I totally agree with everything Sophia has said, and I think the opportunity is even greater than you have imagined. At Stanford, one thing we have been advocating now is really treating AI as an interdisciplinary field. It's no longer a niche field tucked in under computer science. The reach is really far. Just to complement what Sophia said, for the students and people interested in economics, there's a lot of opportunities on AI and future of jobs, AI and organizational future, that intersection of research as well as career opportunities. For those of you who are interested in law, there is a tremendous wide open field of incredible opportunities in policy understanding, regulation understanding, and law, the practice of law itself interacting with data science and machine learning. For those of you who are English majors or in the communications and media world, there is a huge opportunity. Actually, I personally think one of the really lacking issue here is the right way to communicate AI. We do not have good communications, public communication about AI, so there's a huge opportunity for those of you interested in that space. And last but not least, even the humanists and the artists, there's a big space in AI. I remember earlier this year, I don't remember which firm, auction firm just sold the first AI arts by millions of dollars. And a lot of artists globally are now experimenting with AI machine learning techniques to expand the horizon of their creative pieces, and also to challenge AI itself through the expression of art and music and fashion design and all that. So the horizon is really wide.
I just wanted to say something too from the perspective of a college student. Before I went to college, I really thought I was just going to major in CS. And I'm a really creative person, but I don't think I really believed a lot in the interdisciplinary capacity for AI to actually make change. But through my job, which the MIT lab that I've been working for like the past 2 years, I truly have been doing solely AI and public policy solutions. And that has been so integral into how I understand myself as an academic, as an activist, as a student. And now I really want to pursue CS and anthropology. Like I just started a project 3 weeks ago actually that has to do with AI, applying AI for data visualizations for gentrification mapping, which is a huge issue obviously in New York and in other cities too. But I think I would really, I think there's a temptation to isolate like this STEM part of your academic identity from the other things you want to pursue, and you truly don't have to give those things up.
Well, I will say this, as a technologist, I've always been fascinated by creating cool technology, and I was surrounded by people that really, they felt like they had wildly succeeded when they felt like they solved the problem. But what you see with AI is that you still have people like that. I've heard some of the most famous ones talk about how they're going to have autonomous vehicles, and they know they are because they're going to have a computer that can do it. Well, I can tell you that they will not be successful if they don't realize how that computer and the computing that goes with it ties to the human side. And so there will be every bit as much a need to be able to solve the technology problem. But how do you help people to think about it? And I think about Aisha Evans, who was talking about her company, who's re-envisioning what cars look like. And I mean, who knows if that's the right answer, but I will say that AI will provide some solutions that will force us to rethink many of the things that we take for granted today. And you better believe that it will be better if there's all kinds of people with very different backgrounds at the table when those discussions and decisions are being made.
Thank you all so much. So we're going to take audience questions in a minute.